Hey guys and girls, this is quite a long video, so if you don't want to sit through the whole thing, here's a synopsis. The clutch boss has no holes in it on the 250X, where the 250 has holes in it. The clutch plates are made out of different compound than the 250, the friction plates, and then the springs are shorter, and the clutch springs are shorter and they have a little bit less tension on them. There we go. The reason why I make these little videos is because there's literally hardly any information on the X specifically, and even our professional mechanics that I go to for advice treat this bike still as an MX bike, even though there are some subtle differences that make a huge difference. So I'm hoping this will help you as well. Alright, I'm going to apologize for my noisy chair once and hopefully never again in this video. Alright, so what we have here, to get to this point and to reassemble the whole thing is pretty much exactly the same as the Y250Z, and there are so many other videos on the internet on how to do it. I'm not going to go mess around about too much, but there will be some, similarities. So what I'm going to show you now is some of the things you have to check. We'll check this bearing once I have this back on again. But the primary drive seems fine. I've gone ahead and checked it there. And then the primary driven, you need to feel for play. There's absolutely zero play here. And that, the reason why we check it is it's riveted on there and it can wear. So, yeah, this all feels perfectly good. All right. And now we're going to just slide that back in so that the two gears mesh. It's fine, that sweet spot. There we go. There we go. She's in. Now, there should be a little bit of play. That's 100% fine. You never want gears to be 100% spacing because it will just eat right through the teeth or the spokes. The teeth. So you want a little bit of play in there, and that's what we have there, and that still sounds fine. What you do not want is play up and down or to the sides, and that would mean that bearing, thrust bearing, is worn, but it's still 100%. That feels perfect, and that's it. Another thing we need to check before we just move on is we just want to check here on this. Make sure that there's no wear there. Check the structural integrity for wear and tear. These are just markings, and that's fine, but there's no actual grooves in there. The friction plates eventually from the force eats grooves in there, and then it needs to be replaced. Usually a sign of that is if your clutch is, the cable is set perfectly, but it's still, when you have your gear engaged or your clutch engaged and you kick it into gear, the bike has a little jump forward. That's a good indication that you have grooves in here. But this is still perfect. Only 34 hours on the bike. No need for replacement. Thank goodness. These are not cheap to replace. So I have the primary drive and the primary driven meshed. Good. All right. Next up. Alright, I'm just going to check the thrust washer for wear and tear, irregular wear and tear, normal wear and tear, and warping. It seems 100% fine, it's still beautiful. So I'm just going to put it back over this spline. Don't force anything. I know these can make you feel and look stupid. Let's just have a look. Oh no, that's all. There we go. It's funny how it either doesn't fit at all or it just has a perfect fit. It's funny. Anyway, there we go. There she is. Next up we have the clutch boss, and that seems fine. These all seem fine. That's where your metal plates go on, and it seems 100% there. No grooving. That's exactly what we want. That's one of the things that you need to inspect for. Same for the YZ250, Y250X. The one main difference is on the YZ250X, or in the European Union as we know it as YZ250X, you'll find no holes in this clutch boss. And whereas the YZ250, the regular one, there's holes in there. Now that's got to do with the distribution and retention of the oil, Not 100% sure what the logic behind it is. I read it and forgot it. But know that this is the main difference. This one does not have holes. The X does not have holes. So that's our first big difference between the 250 and the 250X with regards to the clutch. Now, having said that, I have little metal pieces in here. That's the last thing you want in your oil. You don't want metal pieces, nor do you want clutch dust in your oil. That's why we regularly change our oil. The reason why I have metal pieces here is I set my torque wrench to 9 Newton meters, and with 9 Newton meters, according to my torque wrench, managed to break off a bolt in there. And then I had to take it to an engineering company to have it removed, and there's a little bit of metal in there. Probably had to drill into it or something. So I have to just clean that out now. So it's a good lesson for me and for all of you. Make sure that your torque wrenches are calibrated. Otherwise you make stupid mistakes like that. I can't feel it for two very big reasons. I used to do a lot of rock climbing, and I ride a 2-stroke. So I don't have a lot of feeling, sensitive light feeling in my forearms, and the torque wrench is huge. So I couldn't really feel, I was cranking too hard. There was way too much leverage on it, and I couldn't really feel for myself that it's just too much. Anyway, and I broke it off. That's me being an idiot. Please don't do the same. Good. So there we go. I'm gonna put the clutch boss in. Just put it nicely over that spline. There we go. And then next up comes the lock washer. Now this lock washer, I've got one on order, but I'm going to use the old one again. It's still got one lock left in it. I hope it doesn't break off when I fold it over now, otherwise I have to wait for the new one to arrive. And then it's time to put the nut, the clutch boss nut in. Alright. And that's pretty much it for now. I'm just going to install these, and then we get to the other main differences between the YZ250 and the YZ250X. Alright, I don't know how this usually gets done. I know it looks a little bit rough now. That was from the tapping it open with the removal. But what I did is I took these vice grip pliers and I set them to an appropriate height, and then I just squeeze down on them, and then they fold it over. Yeah, it's not pretty, but it's working. I think it's a lot better than trying to leverage off your clutch boss with a screwdriver or something to fold it over. It's a very awkward space to get in and try and get this little lip folded over. I actually didn't check anywhere on the internet to see how it's done. I just kind of came up with this. So maybe that's standard practice, maybe that's a big no-no. So maybe just look around first before you go ahead and do that. All right, so we're finally getting to the meat and potatoes of this thing. A lot of harping about stuff you probably already know. So far we've discovered one main difference, and that is that the clutch boss does not have holes in it. The second main difference is the compound that the friction plates are made of. It's a different compound than the 250X. The YZ250 and the YZ250X have different compounds. So I would definitely invest in getting the 250X specific clutch plates, or friction plates for that matter. All right, friction plate thickness. I work in metric, so I know that my plate's thickness needs to be between 2.9 and 3.1. Obviously new it's 3.1, and it can go as low as 2.9 before it's ready for replacement. So I'm going to get my vernier or calipers, and I'm going to measure those. I'll be measuring all 6 of my friction plates, and I'll be measuring them all around to make sure there isn't any warping. What do I get there? Exactly 3 millimeters. So if you can remember, it was between 3.1 and 2.9. So that gives me 3 fractions of 0.1. So I've used exactly 1/3. In 34 hours, I've used 1/3 of my clutch. I'm a big guy. Not tall, just fat. So I'm pretty hard on my clutch. Oh, that's pretty consistent. That's looking good. So I'm sure you know how to put these back. There's many videos on how to do it, but make sure there's oil in them. You don't want to just put dry clutch plates in there or friction plates in there, but it goes friction plate and then you get a steel plate. Now steel plate we're also going to inspect for discoloring, and also you see these little holes or these punch marks in there. It's to retain oil and yeah, assist with grip and all that. So I'm going to make sure that they all get put in. You'll see there's a flat side and a rounded side. I'll just orientate them all the same. But yeah, just make sure that it's not warped and that you can still see these little, let's say. And so that's it. The main difference is, is the compound that they made of. They don't specify the thicknesses between the 250 and the 250X. So I believe they have the same thicknesses. So maybe it's the same, maybe not. But just know that no less than 2.9 millimeters or whatever that is in inches. And yeah, and you're good to go. You're golden. I'm going to be putting the rest in. I don't want to bore you with me putting them in one by one, measuring them one by one, but I'm going to see if they're all consistent, and then we get around to the springs, because that's the last difference that I could pick up between the 250 and the 250X is the springs. We'll measure those. So off to the pressure plate. I was shocked when I opened my cover on my brand new 2019 YZ250X to find workmanship like this. I don't know the Japanese to do stuff like that, but I think maybe they kick the motor over, and if they hear it scraping against the cover, they just take it out and quickly do a rough sanding, because I think there's very little clearance in there. So if you see this, it's normal. Some of them come from the factory like that. At some stage, I don't know, I'll probably clean it up. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever, but it just looks ugly. But not right now. I've got an enduro on this weekend, so I want to get this thing back together and get cracking. Before I put that in, let's just quickly measure the springs, the clutch springs. Okay, so as we can see there in the clutch springs, there's a difference between the length of the YZ250 and the YZ250X. There's a good 6 millimeter difference, and whatever that is in inches. So I see they indicate the inches there. I'm not blind, but I don't know. You guys talk in thousands and all this stuff. I don't know. I'm not even going to go there. So I need to measure between 44 millimeters and 41.8, which is my absolute limit, service limit, before I'm due for replacement. So let's check them all quickly. And that is without any compression on them. That's just like that. And I am measuring in on exactly 43, let's say 0.1 millimeters. That's well within spec, so I'm in good shape there. And I will go ahead and measure all 5 of them. Let's have a look. This one is a little, there we go. Yeah, that's about 43 and a half. .1-ish. Almost 43 point something. I'm guesstimating, but it's just over 43. And this one's also just over 43. There we go. Okay, so we are within the service limits. I do not have to replace them, thank goodness. It's only been 34 hours. Oh, sorry, there's 6. There's another one. 2, 4, 6. Whoops. Okay, good. We're in good shape. Another thing that I would like to mention is that the tension on these springs are a little bit less than the YZ250, so they're a little bit softer. So some people find that they burn their clutches a lot, how they use it, they're power shifting or whatever. I see some people put 3 of the normal YZ250 springs in, and they leave 3 of the softer ones in there, so you can use little combinations like that. I weigh 105 kilograms, and that's somewhere over 200, I think it's around the 220, 215 pound mark, and I haven't had any of those problems just yet, so I'm happy with these lighter springs, especially for the one finger pull. And that is it. There are no other differences from this point on, with regards to the YZ250X clutch. That is all the differences that I could find. I don't know if, I'm not aware of any other, but when it's always a good idea to just measure those things and make sure that you're within limits, because that's where your damage begins, is when you start going outside of those measurements. Anyway, so thank you for watching, and I hope it helped. Like I said, I am not a professional. I'm only showing you my observations that I have learned. There's nothing else with this regard on the internet that I can find. So I'm putting them on there until some professional guy can come and do it. Oh, I forgot something. Oops. I forgot my... now I'm being an idiot. Don't be an idiot. There we go. Okay. Anyway, guys, cheers.